Cheers, everyone. I made 4 documentaries in one single year. In 2024, I made a very strong intention. I want to work my way to mastering long form storytelling. Through long form storytelling, meaning documentaries. And that I did. I feel very proud of my work that I was able to basically pump out 4 feature length documentaries, 3 feature length documentaries, 1 documentary series of 6 episodes in the span of 1 year. I didn't do this alone. I had a team behind me for 3 of the documentaries, the Athens Urbanist, the Coffee documentary, and the Edinburgh Urbanist. I had Maria Elpida Querido as my videographer editor, and Caterina Kaku as our colorist and illustrator. And then I also had someone help out with subtitles, Vasiliki. Thank you so much. And then for the Christmas documentary, it was filmed and partly edited by G. Gatto. So I am so happy I was able to make all these documentaries throughout this year and provide more elaborate long form content to so many people out there. So today we're going to chat about how it was the process of making documentaries here in New York City and other parts of the world. And join me for a nice drink. I'm drinking a good whiskey. I'm drinking a Glenmorangie whiskey in honor of the documentary that just premiered, which was the Edinburgh Urbanist. And I'm drinking a proper Scotch whiskey, Glenmorangie. And this is aged 10 years. And I sought to find the smoothest whiskey because I'm not the biggest fan of whiskey or Scotch, especially when it's like extremely smoky. I still haven't quite acquired a taste for it, but let's try it out. Oh yeah, this is actually very pleasant to drink easily. So wow, that is delicious. Let me know if people are still seeing me and hearing me on YouTube and everywhere on Facebook. Hello, Jeeves. Nice to see you here. And hello, Q2. Welcome. Q2 says, bro immediately went live and started talking. I mean, I gotta talk in order so people can enjoy the replay. Doreen says, tequila? No, this is Scotch whiskey. Whiskey from Scotland. Susie says, congrats on the 4th documentary. Thank you so much. I'm going to chat about the documentary. Feel free to ask me anything about Edinburgh, the Edinburgh documentary, or about making documentaries. Today, the conversation will be about making documentaries. So feel free to ask me anything about the process of making documentaries. Hello, MoCat. Nice to see you here. Hello, Doreen. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you here. Welcome. I'm so happy so many people are tuning in. Hello, Charlene. I hope people enjoyed the documentary. The Edinburgh. Sorry, I keep calling it the Edinburgh Urbanist. That was the original title, but since it's only 1 episode, the title's the Edinburgh City of Secrets. So the reason I wanted to really go into documentary, I made my first feature-length documentary back in 2020. Shortly before the pandemic started, I started filming a documentary about the history of fashion in New York City. And I had a blast. And luckily, I got to film almost everything before the pandemic hit. Pythagoras says, is this live? Yes, this is live. We are live right now on YouTube. So let me know if you see me and hear me clearly. Right before the pandemic hit, 2020, I was able to film the majority of my fashion documentary, like 90% of it. Funnily enough, when I was filming the Tenement Museum, the guy I was filming, sweet guy, no longer works with the Tenement Museum, but he was sniffling like crazy. So that guy had COVID. And I didn't catch it, luckily. I got to film my fashion documentary, and it took me a few months to edit it. And I edited that documentary myself. I wrote it. I researched it. I did everything, and it was so much fun doing that. And luckily, that fashion documentary was seen by a producer for a museum experience called Rise New York. Which, if you're a tourist in New York City, I highly recommend going to Rise New York. It's such a amazing um, attraction right by Times Square, where you get to learn the entire history of New York City. And they hired me basically to do a fashion documentary again, except cramming the 45 minutes that I told the story into 8 minutes, plus adding another story, which was about the fashion designers of the 1970s, which I didn't even cover in my original documentary. Luckily, I already had another skill when they hired me to do this mini documentary. I had the skill of making short videos. So in late 2020 through 2021, by the time I was hired, I was already making a lot of these short videos. At that time, they were about a minute long. Then they got up to about 3 minutes long, and I was trying to cram as much information into 3 minutes or less as possible. And that I did. I figured out. I basically cracked the code to making uh, as much information and providing such a as big of a story as possible in 3 minutes or less in such a condensed amount of time. And I use those skills along with my first documentary and those skills of interviewing, of researching, of putting different stories together and making it as powerfully jam packed as possible so people can enjoy the full history of fashion in New York as they're walking through the museum. And that video is playing on loop there, I think, still to this day. So that was such a fun process. But then I got into doing a lot of short form content, and I luckily have had much success in short form video. Short form video, for people who don't know, again, it's basically videos that are about 3 minutes or less, and usually in vertical format. And I got very popular doing that on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, and my audience exploded. And I got so lucky, so blessed to win a Peabody Award for excellence in storytelling for a 6-part short form video series about the history of racism in New York. And that was wonderful. It was great, such an honor that basically I got recognized for my skills along with my colleague in making a short form video and making something engaging and that people find important. And then so aside from that, I realized like I wanted to do more. I didn't want to just let me just mute my computer. I didn't just want to make short videos. I've always been a fan of making like movies. I've always wanted to make movies, and that's basically the entire reason I'm filming is to work my way to making movies. I like long stories, and um, it was nice to learn how to tell stories very quickly, so I can learn how to tell a good story um, in a longer format, but still make it fun and fast paced. And that we did. So in 2023, summer 2023, I hired Maria Epida Querido to join me in filming a documentary series about Athens, Greece. And that was so much fun. And we did it in 2 weeks. And Maria filmed a little more on her own afterwards, but in 2 weeks we basically got all the interviews, and it took us many months to edit and release that 6-part documentary series. And then I had the challenge when it came to when it came to Christmas, where I wanted to see if I can make a hour documentary in 3 weeks or less, which was it was a big feat. It was a lot to ask. You know, quality could suffer if one uh, is doing things too fast. But I was determined. I was determined to see if it is possible, and I worked m- with my editor, videographer G Gatto, who also edited a lot of short videos in 2023, and we got it done. We got it done in the nick of time. Released in December 24, 2023, and it was so much fun, and I loved it. Uh, and people loved that documentary. And then I moved on to in January, I was so inspired to just start filming about coffee in New York. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. At first, it was going to be like a vlog. And then I realized, oh no, this is like a nice documentary. And I thought to myself, oh, this would be like a good 20-minute documentary about the history of coffee in New York. And then I just kept filming more and more interviews. I kept finding more and more interesting stories, uh, meeting more and more interesting people, learning more fascinating history. And I even filmed on camera interview with a gentleman who was the head of the Specialty Coffee Association. And that interview was nearly 6 hours long. That was a 6 hour interview. And that was quite an intense endeavor. But lo and behold, I found out that there was a very fascinating story about coffee, and we made a kick-ass 1 hour and 8 minute documentary about coffee that people really loved. And I managed to premiere it in front of audiences, and it was nice to see people in person enjoy the documentary. And now, Edinburgh. Edinburgh, we filmed in October 2023. It took us 1 week to film. It was during the time I was traveling a whole lot. And we left Edinburgh to about 3 months ago. We started editing it. And Maria did such a kick ass job in trying to, what initially was going to be a longer 4 episode documentary series. We realized Edinburgh is an interesting city, but we just did not think the story would be served by it being so long. So we condensed it into one single documentary, hour and 8 minutes as well. And and I'm so happy people enjoyed it. So feel free to ask me anything. A few people are asking me, "Hey, why are you pronouncing Maria weirdly?" It's because she's Greek, and yeah, I'm pronouncing it in Spanish because I feel like it. Pythagoras says the coffee documentary was super interesting too. Mocat says I love the Christmas documentary. Oh, I'm glad you did. Risk Jackson says, do you have a good free long video editing software? The best video editing software out there, in my opinion, is Adobe Premiere Pro. Is the one I got accustomed to use. That's the one that Maria is using as well. My colorist Katerina is using DaVinci Resolve, but that's for color grading. I haven't used it for editing. A good free editing software is CapCut. I recommend CapCut. That's I I add my subtitles on CapCut for short videos. Susie says, so happy to be one of the first people to see the Rise New York mini documentary. Oh, yeah. Mika says, congrats on the new documentary. Thank you so much. Mika, indeed, we are live right now. Hello, everyone. New York City Photo says, good luck. Thank you so much. In the video editing, editing of the video, was it up to Maria or you had input? No, I directed all 4 documentaries. The Christmas documentary was edited, co-edited by me. But the other 3 documentaries where I worked with Maria, it was I was very much directing. I trust Maria, so I give her a lot of leeway to choose the story, to find the story. I let her pick what's more interesting about the interview, so I'm not so heavy-handed as a director. I basically the process works like this. We have our all of our footage, and then I go to Maria and I let her find the story. So I tell her, "Hey, come back to me. Have a very very rough edit of what you think the best story would be and the best sequence to tell it." This is what we call the story cut. And this is very rough. There's no specific tiny little edits. It's basically just cobbling together a bunch of different interviews, things I recorded on camera, and just putting it together. And then Maria has an idea of where the voiceover could be interesting, where what we would need to discuss in voiceover, and she gives me like a basic outline of what we need in voiceover. So from that story cut, that's where we start discussing, and I with her, we start discussing on how to best rearrange it and edit it, and maybe the sequence is not always perfect, so we kind of start swapping things around. And then I tell Maria sometimes that we have to add something that she might have overlooked or omitted. Sometimes we have to we usually have to subtract a lot later on through the process. So the Edinburgh Urbanist started as 3 hours originally. We now have an hour and 8 minute documentary. Started as a little bit more than 3 hours was the original cut. For the coffee documentary, the original cut was about 2 hours and 40 minutes and went down to an hour and 8 minutes. So that is the process. Then I direct. I basically, Maria makes a new edit, tells me what's good for voiceover. I tell her, okay, we should do this, we should do that, we should cut this, we should uh, put this here instead of there. We should focus on this specific interview rather than going into this interview. Lo and behold, we film a lot of interviews and we have to cut certain things. Not everything stays in the edit. So unfortunately with the Edinburgh Urbanist, we had some amazing interviewees I had to cut. Um, like we had a amazing couple called Kiwi and Haggis. They were super great, very fun to meet. I'm so happy we got the chance to chat with them and film it. But unfortunately, what we chatted about just did not fit with the rest of the story. So we couldn't, we decided not to add it. And those are sacrifices we have to make. Other things I'm directing is like audio, judging the sound design, the the overall flow of the story, the pacing. Pacing is very important. You don't want a documentary to feel slow. And it's very interesting. If you see our older cuts of the Edinburgh Urbanist, the second to last cut felt way slower than this one. And it was only really a difference of about 2 minutes. 2 minutes can make a world of a difference in an hour documentary in terms of how fast it feels. My goal as director of these documentaries and as the main storyteller, the one writing the story as well, because I write the voiceover and I record the voiceover and I'm on camera hosting and I'm the one conducting the interviews, is to tell the story, to tell you as much story in the shortest time of possible without making you feel tired. It's quite a juggling act. So I gotta go fast, but not too fast that you get whiplash. And that's the balancing act. So Maria is focusing on the editing. I'm focusing on the balancing act. Because ultimately it has to be well balanced. And my prerogative when it comes to documentaries is to provide the best quality entertainment I can. That is number one. Number two is that you learn. But number one is that it's fun. it's entertaining. I care more about entertainment, uh, because frankly, if I wanted you to learn these subjects more deeper, then I would edit it in a different way. I would present it in a different way if that's the priority. But that isn't, because I'm not making something for academia. I'm not making something for journalism. I'm making a movie, a piece of entertainment, and that's my prerogative. And because that is our prerogative as a team to provide the best quality entertainment possible, that we really focus on every second being fun in one way or another. It could be fun in the fast way, it could be fun in the slow way, but we want to make it fun. Ronald to the end says, good choice to go with the single episode for Edinburgh. We use the remaining material for shorts on AIG. Yeah, we have plenty of stuff for short videos. Plenty. From all the documentaries. We can make a lot more short videos. We already did for Edinburgh. I think I made about 12 to 13 short videos from the short form content, from the interviews we filmed. But we can make more for sure. The coffee documentary, we made about 20. And the Athens, I think, was about 20 as well. So we made plenty of short videos from it that I love to reuse. And I think if it were up to me, I would, if I had the budget, I would hire more editors to edit their own version of these documentaries. Maria does an excellent job, but it's awesome sometimes to see how other people interpret it. So we definitely have edited the definitive version, but if it were up to me, if I had the budget or if I had someone who was really interested and wanted to tell the story in a slightly different way from all the footage I had, I would definitely entertain that. Dindin says, your voiceovers were very clear and voice engaging. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, as you can see, I have a huge mic on me, and this pod mic connected to my Rodecaster is the main reason I technologically speaking, that I have such clear voiceovers. Sue says, great job. The interviews, the editing, the filming, and the locations were fascinating. I love Edinburgh and I'm missing it even more. G says, I would love to see the other 2 hours. Let me know. Patrons out there, will you want to see the very rough cut? Are you curious? If you're a patron on Urbanist, patreon.com/Urbanist, would you want to see a rough cut? I could provide that if people are interested. Pythagorean says, I know that a lot of the footage, a very small percentage makes it a rough cut, then perhaps even smaller to the final. But what is the actual percentage? It is not clear cut, so I can't really tell you an exact percentage. I can tell you the time. We went from 3 hours, a little bit more, about 3 hours and 20 minutes in the Edinburgh Urbanist. It was initially edited. Our initial intention was 4 episodes. And then we realized this is more like 3 episodes. So we edited 3 different episodes, about a little bit more longer than an hour each. And then I made the call and I realized Maria was ready to edit these as 3 1-hour episodes. But I made the call as the storyteller, as I was trying to figure out what I would write in the voiceover. And I realized there's so many history documentaries about Edinburgh out there on YouTube, and there's great Scots actually telling their own stories about Edinburgh, that I don't need to do that. So let me not get too much into the history and let me just focus on the interviews we already had and focus on telling that story as entertainingly as possible. So I made the call to turn those 3 1-hour episodes into just one documentary. Din Din says, even though you say your videos are not for educating, I'm reminded of things I learned and also learn new things. Yeah, I mean, they're not for educating. I just say that they are not the the priority is not education, and then that's very purposeful because I don't want to try to. Yeah, I rather entertain. So the priority is not education, but education is a close second. It's a very close second. I still want you to learn something, but it's not necessarily the reason education is not number one is because if it were number one, then we'll have to focus more on the details about the history. Like in this documentary here in the Edinburgh documentary, I talk about Robert Burns. If this was a history documentary, then I should have added more context as to who Robert Burns, the poet, is, who he was, what was he famous for, why was he famous. I could have, I should have added more detail if the priority was education, um, but it's not because the priority is entertainment. And Robert Burns, while it is interesting in the context of the rest of the documentary, it was not worth really getting too deep into him. So I sacrificed adding context about who Robert Burns was. So if you don't even know who Robert Burns was, you only know he's the guy who wrote the New Year's song. Uh, you don't know anything else. I had to sacrifice a little bit of education in order to keep the story going, and not let it be slowed down by knowing all the details. That's why certain PBS documentaries have like a different kind of style because they are more focused on the education. So a Ken Burns documentary is way more exhaustive, and it's like multiple hours about the history of baseball and or like the Civil War, and you're going to immense detail about all these different things, and it can be rather slow, but you end up learning a whole lot. You end up really getting deep into all the details about baseball or the Civil War, and that is impressive. But that's not my priority. All right, feel free to ask me anything. I'm gonna open up my window because it's pretty hot in here. Better. Okay, so feel free to ask me anything. I had to restart the live video like 4 times, so unfortunately, I don't think that many people are end up seeing the live video. So feel free to post it. Feel free to share it if you know other urbanists, so they can hop onto this live video and join us for some fun. So keep asking me any questions about documentary making, about filmmaking in general. We have a few others. Let's see. What's next? Dublin? Ronald, I would love to make something about Ireland. Okay, so it has been a lot of fun making documentaries. It is expensive and time consuming. I have one specific documentary in mind, which is about housing in New York and about how we can radically change that. That's the one documentary I do want to make, but all all this is out of my pocket, and I had no sponsors for any of these documentaries. So and then the documentaries didn't get as many didn't get enough views for me to make my money back. Even the Athens documentary series, which got nearly 600,000 views, it wasn't enough to get my money back. I got like maybe 50% of my money back for the Athens Urbanist, and that's with 600,000 views. With the other documentaries, nothing, like a few $100 back, but that's like 5% back, 10% back. So I really didn't make my money back. I operated at a loss, which which in business is not so smart. But it's the name of entertainment. It's a risk. But hopefully, with these documentaries, I somehow attract sponsors or make more money doing short form video, so I can funnel it to more long form video, or Netflix hires me, or some other major producer, BBC or PBS or something like that, hires me to uh, make a bigger documentary series. Something will happen. But right now, I'm not going to focus on making another documentary just because it was nice making these four. I just I just can't spend that much more money. To be honest, unfortunately. I wish I could. It's not the case right now. Din Din says, just a little critique. There were some parts of the voiceovers you were hearing background sounds and talking. Yeah, that was on purpose. That was the sound design of Maria, not my personal recording, because I recorded all the voiceover here at home alone. Um, the voiceover was there was points, not all of it, but it was on purpose. It was just to make it feel like um it's not just a disembodied voice, that we were still there in the location. I just happened to be adding voiceover afterwards. But I get how it can be distracting. I get it. Nick says, when are you going back to Greece? I love Greece. I'm not sure when, but I love Greece. And I would love to go back. Yeah, another documentary I really wanted to make was Thessaloniki, Greece. The story about Thessaloniki is fascinating, and there is no documentaries in the English language that I could find about it. And yeah, yeah, I think if I make a documentary about Thessaloniki, Greece, the second largest city in Greece, it that would go very viral. I think Greeks especially would love to see that. Um, hopefully, I can do that because that is a great story. LAB says it was ambiance. Yes, it was ambiance. That was the point. And then for the interviews, we just recorded it in real scenarios. So yes, you do hear other people in the background. It's part of production. So our production budget is limited. And I'm paying it fully out of pocket, and I'm paying my team out of pocket. So um sound is difficult to get it perfect on a lower budget. We did a good enough job, I think. But to get it really perfect, you would have to have like lav mics that are really well placed, very close up, or someone with a boom mic and the mic straight out of frame, pointing down over the subject. That would get the best best audio. Aside from that, it would be controlling our environment a little bit better. So rather than filming in a museum where there's other people, filming it in a closed room where we control the sound environment a little bit better. But that all adds budget. Same thing with the actual video and the filmmaking of it all. So yeah, that's sacrifices we have to do just to tell the story as easily as possible. I really hope these documentaries can showcase your talents and you were able to get more bigger and lucrative jobs, says Dindin. Thank you so much, Dindin. Yeah, that is my intention. That is my intention. It worked with the fashion documentary. Hopefully it will work with these documentaries. Nothing has happened as of yet, but hopefully it will happen. Susie says, I think you've been against this, but what if you did crowdfunding to fund your documentaries? Crowdfunding is a bit time intensive. I don't like the idea of it. I don't like kind of blurring the lines between audience and funders, producers. I rather the audience be the audience. I don't need the audience paying for the production. a few people could volunteer. Yeah, I'm more than happy to uh, talk to anyone who's interested in funding and lending funding money for these documentaries. Happy to chat about that, but in general, I don't want the audience to become the funders of projects. Just because I want the audience to be the audience, just so you guys can enjoy it fully on your own without feeling like, oh, was this money well spent? They should have. He could have spent it this way. He could have spent it that way. I don't want you guys thinking about that. That's why I don't do crowdfunding, and also crowdfunding can be rather time intensive. It takes effort. It takes work in trying to make a video for the crowdfunding. It takes work to provide a plan, and I don't actually like filming with a plan. So this is kind of not ideal for even a producer in the traditional TV context because I don't like filming with a plan. I'm happy to do so given the right circumstances, but for my own work, I don't plan. I don't plan. I have like scheduled interviews and I research the person I'm about to interview and the history that they might know. And that's that. We figure out the story as we go. I like that style. If I were crowdfunding, people would want a little bit more of a complete vision before we start filming so they know what they're paying into. And I don't want to do that work because I just prefer not to work that way. So that's why I don't do crowdfunding. Crowdfunding does work for some people. And I may do it. I may reconsider. At the moment, that's not my prerogative. Dindin says, yes, with a limited budget, your audio was great. Thank you so much. Of the many things you do, which produces the most income? Says Ronald. Short form video, specifically on TikTok and Instagram. I almost never get paid specifically to do a short video on YouTube, unfortunately. And then also on Facebook, I almost never get paid to do videos specifically for those two platforms. So it's basically everything is on TikTok and Instagram. I do make money from Facebook. I do make money from YouTube, but it's direct income from ads. Let's see what else. Other. Martin says managing 2 stores in Edinburgh. One thing I would never consider was how much I would be asked about the history of the building and location. Don't get me wrong, I love it. Just not any Harry Potter. Well, yeah, I got into the Harry Potter story. You know, that was partly one of the reasons the Edinburgh Urbanist is shorter than the Athens Urbanist. While the Scots are very friendly, once I started asking questions about the culture and the nuances about the culture and about specifically about culture, I would just get like jokes. I would just get like sarcasm or some type of witty joke, which was nice. That's a great cultural quirk of the Scots, but it's not very conducive to make a cultural documentary. So that said, I couldn't make a documentary as long as I did with Athens because I couldn't just. It was hard to get anyone to chat about culture. History, yes, history was fairly easy because the Scots are very proud of their history. But when it came to talking about cultural nuances, it was difficult. So that's one of the reasons why the documentary is not as long. What's your favorite city in Sicily? I've only been to Sicily once, briefly to Palermo. And I can't really tell you too much about Palermo. It was only one night. When are you going back to Greece? I don't know yet. When in Dublin, did you go up to Howth? No, I didn't go to Howth, unfortunately. Maybe next time. Dindin says, or Pythagoras says, unavoidable. You start doing green screen stuff, and the more voiceover you do with no room tone, the more dull it becomes. Yes, that's why we kept the ambiance in on purpose. And this was a call made by Maria very smartly. Because to keep the ambiance in of what we hear around us. I actually like it. I actually like it. It's kind of sucks when you see these more higher end polished documentaries on Netflix that sound a bit too clean, too sterile. I don't want it to sound too sterile. I want to have some weight, some extra flourish to it. Martin says, "Thank you so much for pronouncing Edinburgh correctly." Yes, the more I drink whiskey, the more correct it becomes. Ah, let me pour some whiskey. Let me know. Should I go for a second one? This is what I'm drinking. Glenmorangie. 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 It's the best way I can pronounce that one. That one's a hard one to pronounce. This is actually really good. Like legit. Like I'm surprised. Like I'm glad I got this bottle of Glenmorangie. Did Gary and Susan take direction well? I don't direct the interviewees or the or whoever's like featured and is like showing me around. I don't direct them necessarily. I may say something specific like, "Hey, don't hit your mic," or "Hey, can you stand over here instead of over there?" Like I might say that, but I really don't direct my interviewees. I'm directing Maria, who's my videographer for the Edinburgh Urbanist, but I'm not directing any of the interviewers. As you noticed, my entire documentary did not have lines that were read. It was all it was all conversation. Every interview, every snippet of the people we included were all from real conversations / interviews. They were not lines that they read from a paper or me feeding them a line. So cheers to a good whiskey, a good documentary premiere. I'm going to stick around. Let's make this an hour-long Q&A. I'll stick around for 20 minutes, but ask really good questions. Ask me some really interesting, spicy questions about making documentaries. Ooh. Susie says, yes, it was all organic. I do that on purpose. I want people feel like they're there with me. That's like one of my main priorities when it comes to the feeling of a documentary. I want you to feel immersed, not just in terms of the pacing, the music, the audio, but the way I conduct the interviews too. I want you to feel like you're chatting there with us. That's why I don't really over prepare my interviews. I'm not reading from a list of questions. I may do that sometimes, but generally I'm not. For the Edinburgh Urbanist, basically I wasn't at all. Same thing with the Greek Urbanist, same thing with the coffee documentary. No questions. And for some of the institutions in the Edinburgh Urbanist, because I featured the National Library of Scotland, I featured the Storytelling Centre and the John Knox House, they wanted me to provide them with a list of questions. I did. And I generally asked those questions, but I didn't have a list with me. And I didn't make the interview flow in a specific predetermined way. And the reason for that is I wanted you to feel like it was an actual conversation and not a overplanned interview. And yeah, that's why I really love about making. I like my style of content. I noticed that there's some other YouTubers out there that start making their own documentaries as well. Some YouTubers I really respect and really enjoy. And I realized, oh, some of these YouTubers, I won't mention any names, are doing a very typical style that they're basically copying the same style they see from TV. And while I understand why they're doing that, and it does work well, some of these YouTubers are doing an excellent job at that. I prefer finding my own style, and I hope that my documentaries feel like they're an urbanist documentary, a documentary directed by Ariel Vera, as opposed to something you could just find on any other TV station. I want you to feel like you're watching something about me, made by me. Like I want you to feel like it is me. Like the documentaries aren't about me. I don't want them to be about me. I don't. That's why in the Edinburgh Urbanist, there was not really that many scenes where I'm just talking for the camera because I don't want to really do that. I do live streams for that. But when it comes to documentaries, I want you to care about the story, about the people we're interviewing, not me. But I still want you to feel like I did this. Like this was made by me and my team uh, with tender love and care. That's my main intention. Did you buy the kilt? No, I did not. I wish I did, but no, I did not. Excuse me. So while you have a list of questions, while you might not have a list of questions, do you do reading beforehand to understand the place before you're going to it? Generally, so sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes yes. If I know the history is going to be really, really important to tell the story about the city. That was the case with Mary King's Close in the Edinburgh documentary, and that was the case for Gladstone's Land, but especially Mary King's Close. And ironically, Mary King's Close was a very short part of the documentary, but I knew that knowing the history about that beforehand was pivotal because I needed to really make sure that whatever I included in Mary King's Close um, was 100% good because that's the like the one of the foundations of the documentary, like one of the columns that holds up the documentary. But other scenarios, no. I didn't prepare anything with Gary and Susie. I didn't read about Peebles really or about um Baroni Castle where we went to. Um, even the Surgeon's Hall. I knew some general history about the history of medicine in Edinburgh, but I didn't really get too deep into it. And there's one main reason is it's nice. I found out luckily through Maria, who was so nice to really tell me in the nicest way possible that while I am a good host and while I can tell a great story on camera, um, people like meeting other people. And especially when it comes to the history of a place, it's better if the people, the locals, are telling the history themselves. At least it's more entertaining that way. Maybe not so educational, but it's more entertaining that way. So, in a way, as a on camera personality, as someone hosting the series, I learned to step back and not really butt in too much. And that was very important because it gave space for these interviewees to tell their version of the history, their version of the story. And there I am more of a guide as opposed to an authoritative figure telling you the history. And that proved to be more entertaining. And that's why for some interviews, I'd rather not prepare because I want you to feel like you're joining me on this journey of discovery about a specific topic as opposed to um just merely telling you the subject as efficiently as possible. Efficiency is a good thing in storytelling, but sometimes it could be a detriment. I don't want to be too efficient in storytelling. So we're telling you the story so bluntly. I want you to feel like you're discovering the story with us. I'm not the best at that. There's other content creators out there. One of them is by the name of Lemmy No, Lemmino, who's very good at kind of like doing investigations, and you feel like you're in the investigation with him. I'm not the best at that, but like I still want you to feel like you're discovering with us. What's the main criteria for deciding a specific city for the documentary? It is my personal interest and also how economically viable it was. Athens worked out just because A, I was personally interested, and B, Maria, my videographer editor, is from Greece. So it was cheaper to have her stay in Athens. And then Edinburgh. I like Edinburgh. I find Edinburgh very fascinating. I luckily had good connections in Edinburgh. I was able to get access to many cool institutions in Edinburgh. But also, Maria had a friend in Edinburgh, and we were able to cut costs on lodging in Edinburgh. So, those are the two main concerns: my personal interest and um, the economics. Why is personal interest so important? I'm not a gun for hire in terms of like TV or documentaries. I can be. I'm more than happy to do that if a company wants to hire me to make a specific documentary. But on my own channel, I want to only give you topics, show you topics and places that I'm personally interested in. Because if I am personally interested in it, you will be too. Uh, or at least a portion of my audience will also be fascinated. If I have fascination, it will be fascinating because I'm the host. I'm the one writing it. I'm the one directing it. I have to be deeply fascinated in every aspect of the process of making this documentary in order to the fascination to come through on camera and through the edit. On camera through my eyes when it's filming me, and through the edit as I am directing behind the scenes and Maria's editing, she also has to be interested. Because if we're not, it will feel more like a slog. I mean, I could muster the interest, but since it's coming out of my own pocket and it's my own money, I also rather be interested in it personally. So that's why I provide places that are first and foremost interesting to me. Great questions, everyone. I'll stick around for 8 more minutes. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy so many people have enjoyed the documentary. Let me know, what was your favorite part of the documentary? What do you enjoy? What struck out to you as you were watching? Let me know. What struck out to you as you were watching? Pythagorean says, you're brutally honest to your own audience. Let me tell you, that's rare. Thank you. Yeah. Why not? Why not be honest? Yeah, we could spend a lot of our lives trying to pretend to be someone else or trying to bolster our own accomplishments or our own ways of being, trying to make it seem like they're way more epic than they are. Um, that's very tiring. It's very tiring to pretend to be someone else. And I think that's why people love Anthony Bourdain and Rick Steves, two main people. They're unabashedly themselves, and in very two different ways. May Anthony Bourdain rest in peace. And there's many other people in TV and also in social media that are the same. But these are two great examples because they've become so popular in their own rights for that very specific reason. They're very unabashedly themselves. They're brutally honest about who they are and about what they do, and they show it on camera and any other media that they may work in, like books. Anthony Bourdain unabashedly likes politics. He liked he liked the gritty parts of the world. He liked the gritty aspects of the kitchen, and he brought that to his documentaries, to his TV show. He brought that to his books. And then you have Rick Steves, who he's not like Anthony Bourdain. He's a very different personality. He's unabashedly fascinated about the practicalities of traveling to a country, about the cultures and the cultural nuances and how we relate to them as Americans. And he's unabashedly like that. He unabashedly wears his Dockers, unabashedly tucks in his button-down shirts, and has this backpack on one arm, and unabashedly tells you in the nicest Pacific Northwestern smile about a city in Europe. And that is very beautiful. And he's unabashedly, embraces his own politics as well. So that is very beautiful about those two personalities. So I think the same thing in terms of what I do. It's better to be unabashedly honest about who I am on my live streams, on my short videos, and on my documentaries, and eventually my movies, to be me and to lean into what I like, how I like it. If I'm the director, and especially if I'm putting my own money into it, I'm going to do what I like as long as it's providing joy and wonder and happiness to other people. I will lean into what I like. And eventually, it'll be fun for everyone. Hey, the research that was done on autopsies says Dindin. I like that part. Susie says I like the pre-anesthesia surgery information. Oh yeah. Dindin says I love how you done lives about gentrification. Will you consider doing a documentary about it? Ooh, sorry. Cheers. Episode 4 of the Athens Urbanist is about gentrification. So that's my documentary about gentrification. And it's very relevant to basically any city in the world. So episode 4 of the Athens Urbanist. Yes, I want to do a documentary about housing in New York. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a documentary series specifically about housing in New York. I think that could be really, really epic. And it will go into gentrification. It will go into suburbanization. It will go into car infrastructure and interstate highway system. It will go into the need for better rail. It will go into what could happen in the future of New York City. I was surprised to hear that poor persons lived higher in the buildings, says Dindin. Yeah. Every city is different. Every way that the city is built is very different. Sabby says, I enjoyed the documentary very much, and I learned a lot about Scottish culture and enjoyed mostly about the part about J.K. Rowling. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Yeah, it's such an important part of the city in terms of the modern zeitgeist. People love Harry Potter, and it definitely, that's why one of the reasons why the city is so popular for people visiting. So I'm glad I was able to cover it. Belinda says, you mentioned the educated Scots. Very true. John Knox and Robert Knox are in my lineage. My dad and his father's middle names are after him. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. They have a lineage to John and Robert Knox. I didn't learn too much about Robert Knox, but John Knox is a fascinating man. And there's way more I could have told about Edinburgh. That's why initially it was going to be a much longer series. The very first idea for Edinburgh was going to be a 7-episode series. But when we were filming, we went down to 4. But there's a lot more, and there's great YouTube channels. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but there's this guy who does great stories about Edinburgh, and he talks about all these figures really well, and there's so much more information about them. Donald says, I'm not so interested in Edinburgh, but I love the storytellers. When I saw that part of them in the promo reel, I wanted to check them out. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the tricky part about these documentaries. Um, it's trying to make documentaries that people want to see, but also that I'm fascinated by. It's a bit tricky. I have at least one hit out of 4, which is the Athens documentary series, and 2 episodes of the 6 episodes from Athens are big hits. They have almost 300K views each. Uh, so I'm glad I had 6 episodes plus 3 more. That's 9. I'm glad I had 2 out of 9 that were big hits. Who knows what will happen with Edinburgh, City of Secrets, but at least I had 2 hits out of 9. I mean, it's the world of entertainment. It's pretty hard to have a hit all the time. Some people do. In the world of movies, it's like Christopher Nolan and Steven Spielberg, but it's a pretty hard business. It's a hard business, and I hope to somehow come across a subject matter that really intrigues me deeply, intrigues my core audience, the many of you that are watching right now that would watch this Q&A. You guys are the core audience. You guys are the true fans of Urbanist, but also attracts the masses in some way, or like hundreds of thousands of people or millions. It would be cool that somehow the stars will align at some point. I'm not going to count on that, but I hope it does. I hope it does. It's nice when the stars align. I hope to tell a story that a lot of people want to see. Barbara says, I tried to send stars and was unable to. You even read my messages on your live. Oh, Barbara, yeah. I'm not sure what's happening with stars. It kind of sucks. I might have to change my designation on Facebook, but the reason I'm labeled as a video gaming content creator is because I want to stream in 1080p, and I'm not able to get stars due to that. That sucks. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Did you learn something? Let me know. Was it interesting to you? Did you learn something new? Did you gather any cool insights? I hope you enjoyed the documentary. Let me know if you want me to continue telling stories on video. Let me know what's your favorite format that I do. Is it long form video? Is it short form video? Is it vlogs? I barely do vlogs, but maybe you want me to do vlogs. Live video? Let me know. What do you love from what I do? And I hope to continue telling stories in whatever way is best for the world. You know, I am I am at the will of the universe. I'm at the will of God. Whatever better way I could tell a good story may it be. Uh, I have my personal ideas of how I want to tell stories, but if it's a different way, then so it be. I'm happy to share my talents, my gifts in the best way I can, in the way that serves the highest good for the most amount of people. And is that through documentaries? Is that through movies? Is that through writing? Is that through short videos? Is that through live videos? Is that through something else that I don't even know of? I don't know. And it could change and could ebb and flow through life, but so be it. Um, because that's my intention. I just want to entertain. I want to share and spread joy and curiosity to as many people as possible. So cheers. ladies and gentlemen, to making good quality entertainment and spreading the joy of learning, the joy of exploration, and the joy of stories to as many people as possible. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Savvy says, always enjoy your content, your hard work and dedication. Your details very much noticed and appreciated. You take me to places I've always wanted to visit. I love the long live YouTubes and IGs, says Ronald. Sue says, thank you, Ariel. Please continue long and short. Morgan says, I love you that I caught your live. Want to continue. I want you to continue telling stories on video. Continue stories however you can, says Susie. Dindin says it was great. Thank you. Pythagorean says you will be telling stories millions in the years to come. If that's the case, then so be it. I'm more than happy to do so. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Oh, this was such a pleasure. I'm so happy so many people enjoyed the documentary. After this, leave comments on the actual documentary, the Edinburgh City of Secrets. Leave comments on that video so more people who want to learn about Edinburgh, about Scotland, can learn about it, can find that video on YouTube. So, everyone, cheers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring and stay curious, my friends. Ah, till next time.